All right, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about something that's, well, pretty crucial, but often doesn't get the attention it deserves: penile health. And look, this isn't just about what happens in the bedroom, this is about your overall health, the whole thing. And all the advice we're covering today comes straight from a top expert, urologist and pelvic surgeon, Dr. Rena Malik. So let's kick things off with a big question. I want you to think about this. Is your penis basically a barometer for your overall health? It's a fascinating idea, right? Dr. Malik really drives this point home. Its function, or lack thereof, can tell you a ton about what's going on with your heart, your hormones, and even what's happening in your head. And, this isn't just some vague theory. The data is, well, it's pretty shocking. Check this out. If you look at men who develop new erectile dysfunction, a full 14% of them will end up having a heart attack within just 7 years. I mean, that is a serious, serious number. Dr. Malik has this perfect way of putting it. She calls it the canary in the coal mine. You know the old story, right? Miners would take a canary down with them, and if the bird stopped singing, they knew the air was bad and it was time to get out. Well, it's the exact same idea here. Erectile dysfunction can be one of the very first signs that something is wrong with your cardiovascular system. It's a warning light, and you absolutely should not ignore it. Okay, so with that pretty serious context set, let's jump into our first section. We're going to tackle some of the most common and, frankly, most dangerous myths out there. These are the things you should never, ever do. So let me be absolutely crystal clear on this one. You've seen them, right? The internet is just flooded with ads for creams, pills, weird exercises, all promising to make you bigger. Well, according to the actual medical experts, it's all nonsense. There is simply no safe, proven at-home remedy, and trying this stuff can cause real, permanent damage. A perfect example of this is something called jelqing. The myth, the thing you read online, is that you can kind of stretch your way to a bigger size. But the reality, what's actually happening is you're forcefully causing tiny little fractures and injuries inside the tissue. Urologists see guys, young guys, who have done this so much they've caused irreversible damage. It's not worth the risk at all. All right, now let's talk about another DIY trend that is just a terrible, terrible idea: homemade constriction bands. We're talking about people using things like metal nuts from a hardware store or rings they've cut out of plastic bottles to try and keep an erection. I really can't say this strongly enough. This is an incredibly dangerous thing to do. And this is not a hypothetical. Dr. Malik tells a story from her time in the ER. A guy put a construction nut on his penis, passed out, and when he finally came in, it was so swollen they couldn't get it off. They literally had to call the fire department to come in with a jiggly saw to cut it off. So yeah, the takeaway here is pretty simple. Just don't do that. Okay, enough of the scary stuff, enough of what not to do. Let's shift gears. Now we're going to talk about the proactive things, the everyday habits that you can do to actually support your health down there, and your overall health too. Let's start with something super simple but really crucial: basic hygiene. If you're uncircumcised, it's all about gently pulling back the foreskin, cleaning and drying underneath, and try to avoid any harsh, scented soaps. But here's the most important part. If you physically can't retract the foreskin, that's not something to ignore. That's a sign you really need to go see a doctor. And kind of on that same note, you have got to listen to your body's warning signs. Things like pain, weird ulcers, or blood near urine, these are your body telling you something is wrong. Look, I get it. It can be embarrassing or scary, but ignoring these things can have absolutely devastating consequences. Dr. Malik says some of the saddest cases she's ever seen are men who ignored an ulcer for too long, and it turned out to be an aggressive penile cancer. Getting things checked early, it's everything. So what about lifestyle? It really boils down to 3 main pillars. Pillar 1, don't smoke. It's just a direct assault on your blood flow, and to put it bluntly, it will kill your erections. Pillar 2, exercise. And you need both kinds, right? Aerobic stuff for blood flow and resistance training, lifting weights to keep those testosterone levels healthy. And pillar 3, a healthy diet. Yeah, I know, it's not the most exciting advice, but it's the foundation for everything else. All right, here's a tip you might not have thought much about before. You got to keep your testicles cool. I mean, there's a reason they hang outside the body, right? They need to be at a slightly cooler temperature to do their job, producing sperm and testosterone. So what does that mean in practical terms? Well, maybe don't spend hours in a hot tub, avoid resting a hot laptop directly on your lap, and maybe, just maybe, think about keeping your phone in a back pocket instead of the front one. Okay, for our next section, let's talk about safety in the moment, specifically how to prevent some really painful injuries during sex. So, what in the world is a penile fracture?
First things first, it's not actually a broken bone. It's a tear in that tough outer lining of the erectile tissue. It usually happens when an erect penis gets bent suddenly and forcefully. And this is a true surgical emergency. If you try to just wait it out, you're looking at a 50-50 shot of permanent erectile dysfunction. Not good odds.
And believe me, you will know if this happens. There's often a literal popping sound, instant pain, and a really fast, dramatic swelling and bruising. The term doctors use is the eggplant penis, which, yeah, it's graphic, but it gives you a pretty unforgettable mental image of what to look for. If this happens, you don't call your doctor tomorrow. You go straight to the ER, period. So, okay, how do you prevent this? Well, it really just comes down to being in control. Simple stuff, right? Use plenty of lubricant. That reduces friction. And hold onto your partner's hips. That way you can guide the speed and the angle. It sounds simple, but that little bit of control is the key to preventing a really serious accident. All right, for our final section, we're going to shift gears a little bit. We're moving from the purely physical stuff to something just as important, the powerful connection between your mind, your stress levels, and your sexual health. Let's talk about something called the death grip. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's when you masturbate with a really aggressive, super tight grip, a level of pressure that, let's be honest, a partner just can't replicate. The problem is, your body can get used to that really intense stimulation. Then, when you're with a partner, it can be hard to get or stay aroused because, well, it just doesn't feel the same. And this is a perfect lead-in to performance anxiety. It's such a vicious cycle, isn't it? You have one bad experience, one time things don't quite work out. Then, the next time, you're not even present in the moment. You're just stuck in your head worrying it's going to happen again. And of course, all that stress and worry makes it more likely to happen again. It's a trap. This is exactly why this piece of advice from Dr. Malik is probably one of the most important things we'll talk about today. Just be kind to yourself. Seriously. Everyone has fluctuations. Everybody has off days. An occasional issue does not mean something is permanently broken. A lot of the time, the stress about the problem is the biggest part of the problem. A little self-compassion goes a long, long way. And finally, let's unpack that old saying, use it or lose it. It turns out there's some real science behind that one. It all comes down to blood flow. See, most healthy men have somewhere between 3 to 5 erections every single night while they're sleeping. This isn't random. It's basically your body's automatic maintenance system. It's pumping oxygen-rich blood into that tissue, which prevents scar tissue from building up and helps maintain function and even length over the long haul. So we've covered a ton of ground here, right? From the really dangerous myths to the simple daily habits and even the power of your own mindset. And if there's one big takeaway, it's this. Taking care of your penis is really just taking care of your entire self. They're connected. So I'll leave you with one final question to think about. After hearing all this, what's one thing you're going to change?